Hi, Lynda Meikle here, your garden coach. And I'm talking to you today about foliage in the garden. We're in Northern California in early February, and I wanted to talk about the different colors and textures that make a garden interesting. The reason why you hire a landscape designer such as myself is we have the expertise as to know what is blooming at what times. I always try and introduce plants that bloom spring, summer, winter and fall. So at every season there's something blooming. But foliage is a really important part of the garden also. It creates the framework and structure in a garden when the blooms are done. So I want to talk about the different colors and textures. This boxwood here is what a lot of gardeners tend to do. They ball them, hedge them. My approach is natural, beautiful plants. This is a loropetalum. So the structure of this is open and weeping. It does bloom in the spring, but the color of the burgundy and the blooms when it blooms in spring, hot pink, is what really makes a beautiful accent in the garden. So this loropetalum might look nice with something that is a variegated foliage. This is a pieris. It is good for the shade. It will brighten up a shady spot. It blooms, beautiful white little blooms, and it's just an evergreen variegated foliage. So this with the loropetalum might be a nice combination. Grasses are a good texture in the garden. This is an acorus called ogon, and if you can see, it has a variegation of green and yellow stripes, so that is a nice accent. This phormium is one called jester, and I always like to use these as accent plants. This particular one has a pinkish apricot stripe with the green on the outside. There are many different kinds of phormiums these days. Be careful not to get ones that get too big. 6 and 7 feet tend to be too big for a garden, for an average size garden. This one gets about 3 by 3, and it's a really pretty accent if you have them throughout the garden. So if we had a little bit of chartreuse yellow, such as this grass in the garden, then I would continue that color on in a sunny spot in the garden for some continuity. This is a coleonema called sunset gold. This in between, the transition between the shade and the sun, would be nice to bring in some more burgundy. And this is a heuchera. There are many different kinds of heucheras, coral bells. This one is called purple petticoats. This one is amethyst mist. They have a beautiful foliage underneath, and some of them are deep purple and some of them are grayish purple. Really a nice accent plant with all the yellows and the greens that we have in the garden. This particular shrub is a Viburnum spring bouquet. It has a lot of little buds on it, and it's going to bloom white in the spring, but it looks really attractive when it's just kind of a purplish tint before the buds are open. This is a nandina called Firepower. It gets about 2 feet, 2.5 feet. The nice thing about this is that it's green foliage in the summer, but when it gets cold, it changes to a beautiful reddish burgundy. So you'll have some interest at different times of the year, and it's just a nice shrub all year round. This little guy is an Abelia called Kaleidoscope. It's just gorgeous this time of year. It has yellows and oranges. It goes a little greener in summer, but it does still have a variegation on it, on the foliage. And so this is a yellow choicea called Sundance. So look at those two together, just a fabulous combination. I like to use grey also. So this is a little festuca. It gets about 1.5 feet high. I tuck it in between boulders. It's really a nice little California grass. Grey foliage. This is a grevillea. A lot of different kinds of grevilleas grow here now. They're from Australia. Just a beautiful, not too showy, but a nice accent plant to have grey in the garden in full sun. Another nice texture is grasses in the garden, and I really like this guy. It's also from Australia. It's Lamandra Breeze, and I use this a lot. It looks good summer and winter. It has a little bloom, but it's not showy, and it just behaves itself very well here. Another phormium. If you want more of a burgundy, chocolate brown, that's a nice accent in the garden. Not too many, so I would use a few, maybe 3 in different areas of the garden to draw your eye around the garden. And then this is a Camellia. Beautiful, dark green, shiny. This is the end of its bloom. This is Sanqua. It blooms early, November, December. Well, it's February now and it's still blooming, so that's pretty amazing. So just to show you the different colors and textures and how to have an interesting garden with foliage, not always relying on blooms. Lynda Meikle, your garden coach.